Alright, Josh, I'm taking you down, way down to Chinatown. Josh, that was the chairs will not hold up.
Was that good enough for the film?
I don't know. So the A7S Mark II is the successor to, in our opinion, the best run and gun camera ever to be released. It's been long awaited, and it has a lot of great features for only $500 more than the original camera. Although this is the Mark II, the camera in reality has not too many changes about it, although the changes that came were sought after greatly, especially after the A7 Mark II came out with stabilization, the A7R Mark II came out with internal 4K. So we're going to be talking about those main differences right now, the things that people are really interested in about this camera. And we'll post some other videos about minor details that you may be interested in. There's some new things that you can do with white balance. There's some settings that help you record log. That will have some smaller videos that you can view, because we know there are some people out there that really want to see everything about this camera. One thing that we appreciate so much about this camera is that you can now map the movie recording button to one of your custom buttons. It wasn't a big problem for us with the original A7S about the record button on the side, but a lot of people, you know, they felt that it was in an awkward position. They couldn't really push it that well. You can now map your record button to any one of these custom buttons. We have it at the top, so it kind of feels more comfortable while you're running and gunning. You just tap it at the top as opposed to, you know, just slamming your thumb right there. I was gonna say slamming your bum against the camera. Throw that ass on the camera. Josh tells me to read a script every day on the screen in front of me, and then he sends me back to the basement where he chains me up and feeds me juk and pig's feet every morning. He says I need to be fat so I can't run away from him. Just send help, please. The inbuilt image stabilization is amazing in this camera. It came from the A7 II, performs pretty much the same as the A7 II and the A7R Mark II. It won't save all of your shots, but with a lens like this, the FE55 that has no OSS, the stabilization really helps when you're getting those handheld shots, especially for video. It makes those jitters seem a bit more organic and not too shaky. It also helps with photo. You can shoot at slower exposures to get a little bit more light in there, which was gonna make the A7S Mark II one of the best cameras to use for street photography. You know, you can stop down a little bit more on the shutter speed, and it'll still look pretty alright if you can get a good stable hand on it. This does have the same body as the A7 II, which we own now, but it feels just slightly more rugged, a bit heavier, a bit more tanky. I feel like it could take a bit more of a beating than the A7 II. We did like that the A7S was really slim, really light, but you know, having this bulkier grip and bulkier body, you know, gives it a little bit more weight, helps making the shots a bit more stable. You know, that weight does help with that. But also it just feels better in the hand. The grip is not as awkward to hold. You know, the original A7S, I feel like if you dropped it on like a monkey's head, it would probably knock it out, incapacitate it. But if you drop this on like a baby monkey's head, you might be able to kill it. So that's kind of the difference between the A7S and the A7S Mark II. The 7S is probably a misdemeanor at best, but the 7S Mark II will probably chalk you up to a felony. One thing that we noticed about the viewfinder is that it seems to be slightly enlarged compared to the A7 II at least. We haven't got our hands on the 7R Mark II, but that was something that we were looking for. It definitely helps to have like a bigger screen when you're looking through the viewfinder. The eye cup is a bit more ergonomic, fits right around your ocular receptors pretty well. One of the biggest questions that people have about this camera is how does the low light compare to the original A7S? And we were hoping that it would be a decent improvement, but we found that it's about half a stop better than the original A7S. The sensor is just slightly tweaked. If you care about how noise looks in your video, if you shoot in 4K and downscale it to 1080p, you get probably about a stop or a stop and a half better rendition than the A7S, but you're kind of losing that 4K if you just want to downscale it. Another addition to video that came into this camera is the new S-Log3 picture profiles. It's slightly improved from S-Log2. You get better highlight retention, but aside from that, you actually get a display gamma assist, which is basically a custom LUT inside your camera. A lot of people who are shooting S-Log2 that didn't have a lot of experience with color grading kind of had trouble envisioning their shots when it looks so flat. With this display assist, you can just hit a button and then it will allow you to see what your video will look like after you grade it, which is really nice for people who kind of can't envision that right away. Big addition to this camera, of course, is 120 frames per second at full HD. The original camera could only do 120 frames per second in 720p. It's a really great addition. It runs continuous. The slow motion doesn't have too many artifacts. The detail is really there. One thing to note though is that the slow motion actually crops into about 2.2 zoom. So if you want to get a nice slow motion shot, be prepared to step back because it really takes you in. Probably the biggest addition to this camera is internal 4K. It's something that people have wanted since the original A7S. And a lot of people think that 4K isn't necessary. It's not even something that you should work with since people don't have 4K monitors or 4K TVs. But it definitely adds so much to your post workflow that you should really reconsider the camera if you think that 4K is useless. If you downscale your 4K, you get better low light, you get way more detail than regular 1080. And in post, you can have stabilization, you can zoom in on your shots, you can add some movement to your shots. It's just so beneficial, and we're really glad that 4K finally came to the A7S. There are some other improvements that came with this camera. One big thing for photographers is 14-bit uncompressed RAW. It was kind of lacking from the other A7 series. If you really need to get that detail and punch in and do a lot of work in post and just bringing the exposure up, past cameras in their RAW just didn't really cut it for a lot of professional needs. Another thing that has improved just slightly, Sony might be overselling it a bit, is the autofocus. In photo mode, it's pretty good, but in video mode, it's marginally better than the original A7S. In continuous autofocus, it hits the spots a little bit better. But for single shot AF, when you're holding down the shutter, it still takes some time to hunt. Another small improvement that they brought to this camera was battery life. The original A7S had about 45 to 50 minutes battery life, whether it was on standby or shooting. This camera has improved just a little bit. You get about an hour to an hour and 10 minutes, which, you know, isn't the best thing, but at least it's something that they improved upon, despite having better video capabilities and better photo capabilities. If you want to shoot 4K internally, you do need a specific type of card. A lot of people put misleading information on the internet. If you really want to be sure that you can shoot 4K internally, we'll post some links in our video description to cards that are guaranteed to work for 4K, so you don't have to go hunting around and buying cards that may not work. In our line of work, we tend to upgrade every camera that we get, try to keep our workflow top-notch and make sure that we have a bit of an edge over competition. But if you're still teetering on whether you want to purchase this camera or just upgrade from the original A7S, we'll be posting a part 2 of this review with more in-depth analysis on the improvements that this camera has over the original A7S. You know, just talking about every part of this camera a little bit more to help you guys make up your mind on whether you think this camera is worth the upgrade or whether you'll just pass for, you know, the A7S Mark III or what have you, the FS5. You know, buy an Arri Alexa if you really want. Get one of those aux sports, you know, that the kids are walking on. It's like a Segway with a handle. It's like a... God, children are so lazy now. Well, that was our review of the A7S Mark II. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. We're gonna be pushing out more videos, hopefully more consistently. This is Jay with Digital Hype TV. Next week, I'll show you what to do when the hotline don't bling. So, doing something nasty with someone else. What are the lyrics to that song? I want to talk about the 4K last because I'm gonna I'm gonna go balls deep, hard in the paint on that just slathering myself in those juices, just slopping, dripping on the ground. Licking it off, watching my dog lick it off. I'm like, no, if I don't know. That's baby. Next week, I show you what to do when that hotline don't bling. Cue the music, you put the speaker away.